Oh, we're back. Some people didn't know we're back today. We're back. They were like, "You're back?" Yeah, it's January 2nd. Back to work. And Kratz, we're going to have to carry the show today.
That's not true at
Yes,
all.
we're going to have to carry the show, and it's okay.
No. I'm here.
Todd Father hasn't eaten a morsel of real sustenance in a day and a half.
I'm trying to do 3 days. So
I'm hungry just saying it.
I've been reading on. There's some good things. Just reset the body. I'm not trying to lose weight. It's just, reset the whole body, water, electrolytes, and work out again, and we're getting after it. So
New Year's resolution, is that why this is happening?
Yes and no. It just came on that day, and it just worked out. The timing was perfect, and it's been 37 hours and counting, so we're moving.
Todd, you know what helps when you're going through something like that? You look freaking amazing, bro. You look like you're glowing. You look like you have energy. I don't care what you feel. You look like you have energy. Let's get it.
Let's get it. I appreciate that. But it's hard. It's tough, man. I don't know how people do it, but there's a lot of good things that come out of it.
I would say over under at a half for a bathroom break for Todd Father, being that he is just guzzling water all day.
It's all electrolyte filled.
Taking the over or the under?
Half? I'm setting the over under a bathroom breaks at 1.5.
Oh,
wow.
baby.
I'll take the under on that. I think he can go 2 hours.
I think I'm
with
good.
Just one.
Yeah, I'm going to try my best.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
And don't mention it much because that creates the problem, too. Here, let's try and distract Todd for the next couple hours. Yeah, don't say waterfall. So do we have the Jason Stark tweet that kind of helps to paint the picture of what's happening here? He said, "A friend in baseball once told me it's amazing how far away spring training feels on December 31st and how close it feels on Jan 1. Just to prove that, the first spring training game of 2026 is 7 weeks from today. Do you feel warmer yet?" He also posted a nice, crispy, warm spring training picture from, I believe it was Clearwater when I looked very quickly.
Considering where we're at here.
We're more than halfway through the offseason.
Yeah,
Did you know that? From the end of Game 7 of the World Series to the start of the first spring training game, we are closer to that spring training game at this point.
Kratzy, I figured it out, but eventually I'm like, after the New Year's, it's like, when do I start hitting again? I used to hit before New Year's. When I was younger, I used to hit. I'd take like a month off and get back after. And I'm like, as I got older, I'm like, let's wait until the new year. And, middle of January. And it just got later and later. But at the same time, it's like, you're going to get your swings in. But I never knew that happy medium of when to start swinging again and feel comfortable about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's extremes of guys that like Ichiro. He takes 1 day off after the season's over, and then he goes bang.
I read that too, yeah.
Like, I think he probably still hits now. He, owned his own stadium that was abandoned in Japan. But, and then there's dudes who show up to spring training, and they're like, did you guys bring my bats? Because I don't have any of my own bats that I'm using. It's hard to figure that out. The only thing I ever ironed out was my throwing, because I always felt like I had to come into camp always on a new team, all that stuff. I have to figure it out. December 15th is my anniversary. I figured I wanted to throw twice before my anniversary. Figured we'd go away somewhere or, have a weekend trip or something. And then when I got back from it, that next week I would long toss once, throw 3 times so that I'm spring training first day. Hey, who's this guy? What's the deal? Oh, he's got a good arm. And it's like, okay, then I'm good to go. Because everybody thought I stunk at hitting. And then you look at my stats and you're like, they were probably like, yeah, you're right.
Dude, that's crazy. Your anniversary is then. Mine's the 14th. It's nuts.
That's not the same day, Todd. Doesn't really matter.
Well, it's close enough.
14th.
It's such a baseball thing.
December.
Yeah.
Such a baseball thing. You got to have your wedding. You got to have your wedding in the off season.
Yep. And the cold, the freezing cold.
Or you have your anniversary on Feb 14 because half the guys are already gone, and so then they miss Valentine's and they miss.
I used to miss Valentine's Day, and then eventually I was good.
And you would do right after?
I would do right after.
Yeah, it's right on that cusp of reporting to spring training. Anyway, there was pretty big news. I mean, of course, there are going to be signings over the last week and change that we were not doing a live show, but let's get to the most recent and biggest name. He's charging the mound. Tatsuya Imai signs with the Houston Astros. 3 years. It can get to $63 million. It's got opt-outs after each season. So for me, I'm on the high side of what I think he's going to bring to the table in 2026. Kratz, I treat this like a 1-year deal for the Houston Astros. The posting fee is about $11 million. He's only going to count $18 million against the luxury tax, which is big. And we'll talk to Chandler Rome, who covers the Astros every day, about how that folds into the way that the soft salary cap, the luxury tax number, the CBT, fits for the Astros the rest of the offseason. But let's start with the player. I think Imai has upside to be a front-end starter, a guy who can start a playoff game. It sounds like the industry spoke and said, we don't necessarily trust that, and the risk is too high. So the Astros win the bid. It sounded like the Mets and Yanks weren't serious, even though we had heard about them being serious from people in the past. Maybe the Cubs were the second-place finishers, or they just wanted people to think that way. But what do you think of this for Houston? You might have Hunter Braun, then Imai might be their next best pitcher in my mind.
I mean, I believe in the Cubs thing because, I mean, look, they've gotten Seiya before. They've gotten
Imanaga.
Oh, man. Thank you. And now for the Astros, like, you sit there and you go, okay, they've made a splash into the Japanese market here, but at what cost? To me, it's not a big cost at all. I get it, the $11 million posting fee cost, but it doesn't go against their luxury tax. But $18 a year for a pitcher, like, wait till the end of the offseason, see what else guys are getting, like who else is getting paid $18 million a year. And I feel like today, without seeing him pitch in a big league game, I feel like it's a pretty good deal. I didn't have him as high as Yamamoto, but you also have to remember, everybody remembers the recency bias of Yamamoto dominating besides, his little blip against the Phillies, and he almost lost the World Series coming back out after another dominating performance. But everybody remembers he's the MVP. He didn't pitch half the first year. So for the Astros, when he was with the Dodgers, the first year with the Dodgers, he didn't pitch half of that year because of an injury. If you're the Astros, you're sitting here like, we don't know what we're going to get the first year. And I think the industry probably feels the same way. And the fact that he can go out, have a ridiculous first year, and opt out is great for both parties because Imai can get what he wants in the fact that he can show he can pitch in the big leagues. And the Astros say, you do really well, we benefit, and then you go out and we don't have any more of your contract on our books.
Right. It's insurance in case he completely bombs or gets hurt or something like that. But otherwise, let's bring in Chandler Rome right now, who wrote articles about this, multiple in The Athletic already, and has a breaking news pod out on Crush City territory where you can check it out. Chandler, your thoughts on this signing for the Astros? Did you see this one coming?
I did not. And I don't think really anyone around the Astros, I don't think anyone that intently follows them saw this one coming. They were always going to keep searching for starting pitching. There was an internal thought that the gap between Hunter Braun and the rest of the Astros rotation was too wide. And obviously, when you have a guy that was a Cy Young finalist in Braun, there's obviously going to be a gap. But the Astros wanted to work to close that gap a little bit. Everything that we had been told and everything that I had reported this whole winter suggested that, they didn't have a ton of money to spend, that they wanted to be mindful of their luxury tax positioning. But it should be noted that the Astros cut about an estimated $16 million in payroll by trading Mauricio Dubon and then releasing Chas McCormick, Luis Garcia, and Ramon Urias. This is the reinvestment of that cutting of the payroll. And I think Jim Crane, I think the Astros wanted to make a mark in the Japanese market, in the Asian market. I don't think it's a coincidence that they renamed their ballpark Daikin Park about a year ago today. Daikin is headquartered in Osaka, Japan. They wanted to have their footprint a little bit in the Asia market, in the Japanese market. And this is going to help that immensely. Now, they were never going to give Imai the contract that many pundits projected he would get. The Athletics' Tim Britton said he would get 8 years and $190 million. MLB trade rumors had him at 6 years and $150 million. The Astros were never going to go to that length. But when opinions of Imai were kind of polarizing within the industry, when it became clear that he wasn't going to get that long-term deal that a lot of places were projecting he was going to get, Jim Crane and the Astros are perfectly fine with this. A short-term, high AAV deal. In fact, that's the kind of free agent deal they have done throughout Jim's entire ownership tenure. So really, this one just kind of fell into their lap, and they were happy to take it.
Yeah, and I want to go along those lines too as well, understanding that people were thinking he was going to get closer to 200, even $300 million, and he got 63. Why do you think that happened? And why do you think he took this deal over other deals that had a little bit more money on the table?
Well, you got to remember that he's represented by Scott Boras. I think Scott Boras wants to get him back out into the free agent market as quickly as possible. I think, why didn't he get that longer term deal? I think there are some questions a little bit about his durability. I think there are some questions about, I don't think anyone questions the upside. I don't think anyone questions the stuff and what this guy can bring. I don't think anyone ever projected him to get, to be on the same plane as Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Now, Scott Boras at the GM meetings did say that certainly Imai has done everything Yamamoto did in NPB, and that is 100% true when you look at the statistics. So I just think that the market really didn't materialize in the way that maybe Imai thought it would. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for him to prove to maybe some of the naysayers, some of the people in the industry that were questioning kind of his upside and what he can bring. You have a year to prove it. You have a year to go out and erase those durability concerns. The innings pitched thresholds in this contract are very interesting to me. They start at 80 innings pitched, so he gets an extra $1 million if he hits 80 innings, another extra $1 million if he hits 90 innings, and then another extra $1 million if he hits 100 innings pitched. Usually you see those innings pitched thresholds for starting pitchers way higher. You usually see it at about 100, 120, 140. So maybe that is indicative of some of the concerns that are had about his durability, whether he can pitch deep into a season, into a major league season. But this is now, he has all the opportunity in the world now to prove a lot of people wrong, to prove that he is worthy of that long contract, and he can get back into free agency next winter and perhaps get it.
Will there be a push because of those innings? My question was going to be about those innings. It's very rare, and you highlighted that, but I'm going to double down on it. Are they going to use him differently? In the sense, every Japanese pitcher that comes over, six-man rotation. That's what everybody hears. It's durability. It's kind of like it seems like a cliche, especially after what Yamamoto did this year after a season where he came back, didn't pitch half the season. Is there a way that they're going to have to deploy him differently because of that? Or is that innings limits really just they feel like he's a $21 million a year pitcher, knowing that he'll get there without an injury?
I think it's more of the latter, Erik. I don't think they're going to mess with, he's a starter. They're going to deploy him as a starting pitcher. They'll read and react, and they'll obviously have to talk to him and be in communication with him just about all the stuff you usually have to be in contact with an NPB pitcher coming over, just the transition, kind of what's different about big league life. You mentioned the six-man rotation, and I'll tell you this, the Astros opened the season with 25 games in 27 days. It would not stun me that they come out of spring training already in a six-man rotation, maybe for the first month of the year. And the interesting thing is Imai kind of falls in line with all of the other pitchers that they have acquired this offseason. You look at Ryan Weiss, who they signed out of the KBO, a ton of innings incentives in that contract too, somebody with a ton of upside that really just hasn't proven it at the big league level. You look at Mike Burrows, who they got in the trade, the 3-team trade with Tampa and Pittsburgh, another guy that they're very excited about, a guy that certainly has the prospect pedigree and has shown a little bit what he can do at the big league level, but certainly not a proven commodity. He's only thrown 90 innings at the big league level. And then Nate Pearson, who they signed early in the offseason. They're going to give him a chance to start. A top prospect that certainly has the stuff, has a high ceiling, but they're going to give. So it really kind of falls in line with they've really leaned into a lot of high upside plays with, maybe not a ton of, guarantees as to what they'll be, but if they can hit on all of these guys, they certainly have the makings of a really good rotation. And if there's one team's pitching development infrastructure and kind of analytics and pitching infrastructure that I would trust to hit on these guys, it's the Astros.
Wait, I got to go back to something you said. 6-man rotation, Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown is a Cy Young candidate. Will he agree to a 6-man rotation? Because that moniker on your name, oh, he's in a 6-man rotation, it's going to automatically make people, I don't know. Or is he going to be the exception? Everyone else goes 6, and he goes every 5, and you just get bumped when it's Hunter's turn.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up, Erik. They can read and react on these things. Like this is a good problem to have. It is a good problem to have a lot of starting pitchers that they're going to have to kind of figure out what to do with. This is a problem that, quite frankly, they didn't have the last couple of years. So, yeah, it could be a situation where maybe they talk with Hunter and see if he wants to pitch every 5th day, but they can make, if Imai needs some extra rest or if their bullpen's kind of short, maybe they can figure out a way to finagle to get Hunter to pitch every 5th day. But I'll say this, Hunter Brown they ran 6-man rotations last year at points of last season, and Hunter Brown, at least publicly, never begrudged it, never spoke out against it. Internally, speaking to him, he's as team first of a guy as it comes. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, but mainly because he's done it already. He has been part of a 6-man rotation as a Cy Young candidate before. He did that last year. I don't envision it being much of a problem, but they will have that flexibility to be able to kind of do with him what they please.
The Astros fans, man, they got to be really excited about this. First off, he's coming to the team, and second off, he said he wants to beat the Dodgers. I mean, how do you perceive all this? And are the fans just falling in love with this guy already, not even seeing him throw one pitch yet?
He could not have endeared himself better to this fan base, just based off of those comments he gave to Daisuke Matsusaka on that show in Japan. But I found his entire kind of outlook on this whole thing really fascinating, that he didn't want to go somewhere where there was a large Japanese presence, where he wanted to maybe go see if he could confront kind of these struggles that are inherently going to come, just of the transition, just of coming to a new league, coming to a new country. He wants to battle those on his own. He essentially said he'd be taking the easy way out by going to a team with a big Japanese presence where he can rely on, a guy like Yamamoto or a guy like Sasaki, or even if he went to the Cubs, relying on Shota or relying on, say, a Suzuki. Like, I think that's a refreshing perspective to have. And I think it's certainly something. I think we're going to get to talk to Imai next week. I think they're going to do a press conference here. It'll be interesting to hear kind of more what he has to say about that. But just reading up on that and not being afraid to be different, not being afraid to be the only guy kind of on the team that's Japanese and that comes from that culture. I think that's a really interesting and a really kind of enlightening viewpoint and way to view things.
Chandler, I like the Kikuchi angle too. I know Scott Boras mentioned how he was paying attention to the fact that Kikuchi goes over to the Astros. They seem to get him clicking, and then it turned into $63 million for him with the Angels. Of course, the comedy in it for me is that Kikuchi goes to the Angels, and those two, yes, have similar contracts in terms of guaranteed money. The Astros have a deal with a Japanese HVAC company, Kikuchi complaining about AC with the Angels. And so Imai ends up with the Astros. They have good AC and good backing behind it. So I read that, and that's where my brain was twisting.
Yeah, and I want to make this clear too. Like, it's not as if you say Kikuchi and Tatsuya Imai are identical. Like, Kikuchi is left-handed, Imai is right-handed. They are not the same pitcher. Like, they have different things, different ways of getting hitters out, but they've got some similarities in their arsenals. They've got some similar ways in the way they do things. And, I talked to Scott Boras when Yusei was still with the Astros. Talked to him in Anaheim, kind of, I think that last series of the year when Kikuchi was going to pitch. And he raved about what the Astros did to Kikuchi. And it was more about kind of simplifying what Yusei Kikuchi was doing. And I think Scott said something to the effect of, they're letting him pitch like he did when he was an amateur, when he was coming up in Japan before he came over to the States and before he posted. So I can't sit here and say they're going to do the exact same things with Imai that they did with Kikuchi, but at the very least, Scott Boras had a baseline to where he could go to Imai and tell him, look, they have had success with a Japanese pitcher, granted, not someone that came over straight from NPB, but they have had success with guys with similar arsenals to what you have and what you do. Like, this is a place where I think they all felt comfortable that he could come here and really maybe realize that potential that some people are questioning within the industry.
Let's talk about next moves for the Astros. After this, they're still slightly under, and once they trade away Jose Abreu's salary, I mean Christian Walker's salary, we're just rinsing and repeating the same story. Is that something that's going to happen? Do the Astros have to, or will they look at moving possibly Isaac Paredes or Christian Walker?
Kratzy, I just don't know where they're going to have the everyday at-bats for these guys, because Joe Espada said at the winter meetings he wants Yordan Alvarez to DH most of the time, and he wants Jose Altuve to play second base a majority of his time. Now, they can both play some left field, but judging on what Joe Espada said, he'd like those two guys to be entrenched in those positions. You got Carlos Correa at third base. You have Jeremy Pena at shortstop. Excuse me. You're gonna have Jose Altuve at second base. I don't know where the at bats come for Isaac Paredes and Christian Walker of the everyday variety. With the DH being clogged up with Alvarez, like, I just don't know how you get both of those guys every day at bats. Christian Walker, he sat out a pivotal game in September last year. Joe Espada said it was due to matchups. He was scuffling at that point. And I talked to Christian Walker that day, and he said, I'm an everyday player. He said, I want to play every day. He understood why the move was made, but made no bones about it. He wants to be an everyday player. Isaac Paredes is currently in arbitration. He's going to be in arbitration next year. How do you get paid in arbitration? You get paid by accumulating stats, accumulating games played, things like that. They could go to spring training with this glut of infielders, and I'm sure they could make it work. I'm sure they could set up a schedule to where all these guys get, enough at bats to feel good, and we're all fine and dandy. But Kratz, you've been in a big league clubhouse. Same thing with Todd. I don't think it's going to sit well with these veteran guys being told, hey, you're not an everyday player anymore. And they may say everything right publicly. We did this song and dance when the Astros acquired Josh Hader when they signed him 2 years ago. Ryan Presley, everything publicly, he was on board. He did nothing in the clubhouse to create acrimony, but they traded him a year later, in part because his relationship with the organization had deteriorated, in part because they signed Josh Hader. Now, as far as the payroll goes, they are about $4 million under the luxury tax right now. They need a backup catcher. I think they'd like another left-handed hitter, and I think they'd like another reliever. You can't do that without spending money. So I would imagine, you start to look at who makes money. Isaac Paredes is estimated to make about $10 million in arbitration. Christian Walker is going to have $20 million salary. That's going to be really hard to move. You have Jesus Sanchez in the outfield, who's estimated to make about $6.5 million in arbitration. He's certainly a trade candidate as well. But if the Astros want to get the most value back, if they want to make a trade that gets them, that helps their farm system, that maybe helps their major league team, I think Isaac Paredes is the most valuable guy on their team that they could trade. It would help to clear payroll space, and it would give them the most value back in return.
Didn't they know all this? Didn't they know all this last year when they traded for Carlos Correa? And I know they're going to say, unbelievable. Any chance you get an opportunity to bring Carlos Correa back, you do it, especially since the Twins are paying some of that contract. But didn't they know this? When they've had Yordan Alvarez this whole time, and he is locking up your DH spot. I get it. You've been putting him in left. So who's to blame for this maybe logjam that they're sitting at right now?
I think they went into they went into last year's trade deadline just saying we need to make the playoffs this year. We need to help ourselves this year, get to the playoffs. And remember, at the time of the trade deadline last year, Isaac Paredes was thought to be done for the season. He had sustained a severe hamstring strain. They needed a third baseman. Like, they needed a third baseman to compete last year. They went and got Carlos Correa. Again, a situation where it kind of fell into their lap of the Twins just completely fire sailing and being willing to eat some of that contract. It fell into their lap. And Dana Brown and Joe Espada have both said that they needed some leadership, that obviously Carlos Correa is going to provide that. But Kratzy, they knew they were getting questions about that like the day after the trade deadline last year. And it was all just, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Well, we're worried about this year's team. And it was easy then. It was easy to kick the can down the road and just say, we'll address this when we have to. Well, now they're here, and it's going to be a difficult one to address because Isaac Paredes it's better for the 2026 Astros if Isaac Paredes is on the team. The pull power, the patience, being able to work at bats, work plate appearances, the sort of offensive profile they don't have in their lineup. Like, he is the best fit to stay on the team. But I just don't know if they're going to be able to move Christian Walker. He's got a limited no-trade clause that allows him to block a trade to 6 teams. He's got a $20 million salary that I can't envision any team is going to take on in its entirety, so we'll have to eat some of it. It's going to be far more cumbersome to move Walker. Could they do it? Sure. Maybe there's a team that, when we get to the end of January, that has missed out on some of its free agent targets, has missed out on some of the offensive free agents out there, and say, we need a right-handed power hitter. Christian Walker still did hit 27 homers last season. He's not, I know it may have been tongue-in-cheek, Kratzy, but I don't think this is a Jose Abreu situation. I mean, Christian Walker still hit 27 homers last year. He had a 799 OPS after the All-Star break. Like, I don't think this is a situation where he has just completely lost it and it's irredeemable. Like, he's got value at that price. I don't know if any team's going to take him on at that price he's on in his contract, but he's got enough value to where he could move, but it may come later in the offseason, maybe after a team has done and settled. They've missed out on some targets and they're like, hey, like, we need another bat in the middle of our lineup. Then maybe they pivot to Christian Walker.
Yep, good call. So maybe that curse that Kratz is talking about gets erased here. And I agree, yeah, it's not like it was a bad year this past season. It's just the irony of them already shopping the first baseman that they signed to a long-term contract. And I agree, Paredes is built for Houston, so I hope that he gets to do one more season there. I'm sure he feels the same way because he's entering his free agent year. But anyway, Chandler, great catching up. Appreciate it. Great hustle the last couple of days. Crush City Territory episode out there now for much more detail on this signing. There it is. It's Chandler. It's Tyler. It's Josh Reddick. It's part of the FP Network. And Chandler's got multiple articles out there in The Athletic on Imai and what's next for Houston. Thanks, Chandler. Happy New Year, bud.
Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.
Show me the money.
Show me the money! Show me the money!
Never was it more relevant than what we just showed you there. Money moves. Anthony Rendon, that's him, on the phone, yelling at the Angels, show me the money and let me stay in my home in Texas and not spend any time with you in California this year. And they said, okay, can we extend that money to pay it out over a 3 to 5 year span a few years from now? And he said, yes. Goodbye, Angels, and likely goodbye, baseball. He's still going to technically be on the roster, but then you get to spring training and you can use the spot again with the 60-day IL. We had talked about this a month and change ago when it came out that he was probably going to get bought out, but now it's official. Yeah. It's done. So his career is likely over. 35 years old, $38 million due for the final year of his contract. That'll get paid out later and maybe open up some money for the Angels.
Yeah. This is an unbelievable contract if you want the truth. It's crazy.
How about the numbers?
Yeah.
With the Angels, worse than his final season with the Nats. That's one of the tweets that popped up yesterday. Can we show this while Todd's talking? Look at that, Todd.
In the final season, Anthony Rendon had more home runs, 34 and RBIs, 126 in his final season with the Nationals than he did in 7 seasons with the Angels, 22 and 125 by Dan Clark. Yeah, listen, man, you take the stats, and it's just not good. We know that. It's not good. I love Anthony Rendon. I have a good relationship with him when we played. I think he's an awesome guy. It just didn't work out. It didn't work out. It was one of those things where, injuries piled up a little bit. He struggled. There was other, unforeseen circumstances. I go about the guy who he is, dude. I think he's an incredible person. I like him a lot. It just, again, things didn't work out. He struggled and just wasn't the right fit. And to see how it ends like this, I know he's probably not happy. I know the Angels are probably not happy. And it just, I think it's good for them to kind of let go a little bit, even though the money situation, he still has to get paid out. And I'm sure he's happy about that, which he should be.
What do you mean he's not happy? I feel like he's super happy because he doesn't have to go back to the team and play. I mean, that's the one thing that I don't think anybody can doubt. He does not like baseball.
Yeah.
He's very clear about that, and he didn't want to play anymore. Injury's a pain in the ass. I get that, right? He's been hit with the injury bug, actually, if you go back to his career since college.
Yeah.
I think he would have been a 1-1. He ended up being, I don't know, like a 1-5, like 5th overall, something like that. He had injuries starting back in Rice when he was a superstar there, but he was not playing consistently. There were concerns.
And what I meant by not happy, just when he was there, like that.
I don't think.
Yeah, I didn't mean not happy now. You know what I'm saying? So,
now he's like, I'm done. Kick back. Texas taxes on that contract too, right? The
true.
Deferrals will push it to no state income tax versus California, which probably helped to balance out how they made a deal here.
Sure.
Yeah. But I mean, I think this is closure for Angels fans too. This is a tough look when you've got to see this guy, on your payroll every year. I'm not saying fans don't or shouldn't care too much about, the billionaire's checkbook, but you should care that your team spent so much money on a guy that basically did nothing for you. And I think that it was stinging for a long time, Kratz, with fans and even just within the organization. Kevin Pillar played there and has talked about it, right? Like, you're there, and it's just better if Anthony's not there, like as a presence in the organization, in the clubhouse, etc., because he doesn't want to be there.
Yeah, and maybe we're blowing it out of proportion a little bit when you say, it's a burden. It's just a burden at times. It's not a burden all the time. It's not dragging down their play on the field every day. Nobody's looking over to dugout and being like, oh, great, there's Rendon's contract. But I think it manifests itself in wins and losses because of the fact that we just talked about Imai. Imai signed for essentially $18 million. Could you get 2 players, if Artie Moreno's worried about the luxury tax, could they get 2 pitchers, which is what the Angels have needed, to offset what Rendon's contract would have been these last few years? And what would those $18 million pitchers look like? You don't know. There's, for every $18 million Frankie Montas, there's an $18 million resurgence pitcher that was really good and just is now coming back. I can't name a player that would have really been that guy, but that's the part that it hits for Angels fans, because it's also on top of a lot of the other contracts that haven't played out because of injury. I think Rendon's is different because his laissez-faire, like, attitude towards different things makes him look like he doesn't want to be there. Him saying, you know what? There's more important things to me in life than baseball. That makes a fan go, what? Like, I'm giving a lot of my money to come and watch you play, the rest of your guys play, and that's what you hear. And it wasn't a good look. And it's not a good look for the Angels because they signed Pujols. That contract didn't really work out. The Justin Upton contract, the Mike Trout contract right now, while Mike Trout's still the face of the Angels, he hasn't played since he signed that contract. The percentage of games that he's played hasn't been a lot. And now Rendon. So it's like, Angel fans, I think the ire of their misfortune is going to be towards Anthony Rendon, but it's been a cycle of poor position player contracts that have not kept those players on the field.
Josh Hamilton. So it gets me thinking.
Thank you.
Josh Hamilton, right? And there was clearly a lot of background there. Josh Hamilton was a risk. It was a risk signing, higher risk than most other signings. Could you make a case that Anthony Rendon was a risk when someone like me at that time of his signing is just a broadcaster / part-time reporter in the playoffs, and I'm around teams and players enough to know that Anthony Rendon is there because he's good, but not because he wants to be there every day? I mean, Anthony, I covered him. I tried interviewing him a few times, and he was always super nice. He just was like, dude, this isn't my thing. Like, he gave off the aura, Kratz, that he didn't want to be there. And it wasn't like I'm too cool to be here. I think that's why most people around him will be like, oh, he's a nice guy. He just was super straightforward, that he recognized how talented he was, and yet it kind of pained him to go to the ballpark every day. And it pained him so much that sometimes he even made it public. So I've got two questions for you guys. Right. One, should there have been more background on a player like this, right? If you are going to spend $250 million, shouldn't you make sure that it's a guy who gives a shit about showing up every day? And two, does it bother other players when something plays out like this? Because many fans in the chat are like, hey, this could cause Artie Moreno or another owner in baseball to be like, I'm not giving out a big deal like that and risk of it being a Rendon situation. That hurts other players, and just the perception of giving a crap when most people would, give an arm and a leg to play the sport for 5 years.
I'll answer the first one. I think they all they have to do their background on a guy. Talk to players that on their team, management. Hey, I know you've played with him. Are you either in college or, against him? What do you think about this guy? No, if you're a manager on the other team or a GM and you're like trying to trade a guy or get rid of a guy, you're going to tell him all the good things. You're not going to tell him all the bad things. I mean, that would just be silly. So they do. They have to do all their homework extensively. Health for sure. See how he's healthy. All that stuff. I don't see that being a problem. Because it caused rifts in the locker room. Maybe a few people. I mean, for me, it would just be like, hey, man, we need you kind of deal. Can you pick it up a little bit? That kind of talk. You want your guys to make money. You want everybody to make their money, but just give me whatever you got that day, each day, without being a problem, and then I'm fine with it.
I mean, I think they try their best. I mean, you heard when Ron Washington came in, I thought he said one of his first calls was to Anthony. Like, I'm not saying the Angels did everything right in this situation. I'm saying there's a different way to manage. There's a different way to coach different players. I can't coach Todd the same way I would coach Anthony Rendon. I can't think about the Nationals, James Wood, the same way I can coach CJ Abrams. And so how do you look past, how somebody's view of baseball is and figure out how to get the most out of that person? Maybe it was a lost cause, but I think the Angels did their best. I remember talking to Ron Washington on here, and he was like, "We're not guaranteeing him a spot. He's not guaranteed any spot. Like, that's not how we're doing this." And maybe nobody ever said that to him. Maybe he was fine. Hey, you know what? You don't want to guarantee my spot? Then it's fine. I'll give you what I got when I got it. Everybody tries their different ways of doing it. And as a player, the question you asked about other players, are they pissed that he got his money? No, because I shouldn't say that. Maybe there's some guys who are jealous. Maybe Todd's like, well, I played third base. I would have loved $246 million. And to that, if I would hear a player say that, I'd be like, sorry, Todd, I don't care how much you wanted it. You weren't as good as him because he put up the number that put him in the situation. Like, if you're always looking at other people's contracts and you're like, my numbers were exactly the same, I should have gotten more than him, or I should have gotten the same as him, okay, that's different. But Anthony Rendon hit the jackpot when he had his career year on his platform year, won a World Series, and had an owner who missed out on a big-time free agent pitcher and said, pivot, I got all this money, we're giving it to you.
Yeah, it was a perfect storm. And he would have gotten paid regardless. Would it have been at that level? Maybe not. But, I mean, he would have gotten still – what do you mean? I mean, he still would have gotten a ton of money. So either way, but your point is, I mean, he got the top end of what people thought he was going to get. based on this perfect storm lining up. And he's talking about Artie Moreno going after Garrett Cole. They come up short. They go to Rendon. It's like, who else you got? Okay, let's work on Rendon. Remember, there were serious reports that the Dodgers were very interested in Anthony Rendon. How different things could have looked for LA if they threw a couple $100 million at Anthony Rendon.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, would have been.
And what would have happened with him, right? What would have happened with Anthony? Is it all injuries, or could someone have motivated him to want to be there more frequently? You know, those are two different teams too, right? Dodgers are in it every year. Unfortunately, the Angels have been one of the worst teams in baseball for a minute now. They're never in it.
Yeah.
I mean, you put guys around them. You put guys around, and maybe a guy like Mookie Betts is that guy. Maybe a guy like Freddie Freeman is that guy. You hear Max Muncy talk all the time on the show. Like, we keep each other accountable. We make sure everybody has a base level standard that we're at, and maybe that's why the Dodgers didn't give him that money. Maybe they did a little extra effort. Within 2 years of me quitting playing, I was still getting calls about guys I played with that were becoming free agents from organizations that I never had, I never saw any connections with that said free agent, but they were like, hey, what did you think about this guy? Hey, how is this guy when this happened? So that work is done behind the scenes. And I think, maybe they missed it here with the Angels. Maybe the Angels heard the Dodgers were looking at him and were like, no, we're not letting this player who was the number 3 best player in the 2019 season go to our crosstown team, not crosstown rival, go to the Dodgers. We're going to pay that money. And kudos to Artie Moreno for saying, you know what, I think he's the best player. I'm willing to pay. We don't agree with the people that he signed, but Artie Moreno's, he's always making big splashes and he's always bringing in these good position players. And, it hasn't worked out for whatever reason. And I think it's probably lying more in what Scott said. That clubhouse, somebody to motivate each person. What does it take when you bring Albert Pujols in to motivate him? Is he the guy that is going to fit right into your clubhouse? That's where you take that next step after you spend money on players.
I think it'll just help to get all of the questions and everything out of there now. Nobody has to deal with any more questions. Like, it's done. He's not there anymore. It's over. There's nothing else to say about it anymore, right? Nobody has to answer
closure,
for him.
Like you said.
It is. It's good closure for them. And there's 1 or 2 reports that I saw over the last few days saying that the Angels might look into Nolan Arenado. That would be a big difference. I mean, Nolan wants to play.
Yeah.
Nolan's showing up every day to play. He is not the same guy anymore. He's towards the tail end of his career. That's no secret. He's had, I think, sub-average offensive seasons 2 years in a row now, but he can still pick it at third, and maybe he does find it a little bit with an everyday spot on the Angels and less pressure.
Spending money, too. Like, there's a lot that goes.
They're going to have to eat a lot of the money, the Cardinals. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye on that one. That might come later in the offseason. I do think he would waive the no trade to go over there. All right, let's get to another team in the American League West that actually did a lot over the last week. Ken Korach is going to join us in a moment. Ken Korach is longtime radio voice of the A's and joining us right now on Foul Territory. Ken, great to have you on. Happy New Year. And we were like, we got to get Ken on because the A's are one of the loudest teams over the past week with the big Tyler Soderstrom extension. So how you doing? And what did you think of that news?
I'm doing well, Scott. It's great to be with you guys. Yeah, it was good news. I was at the press conference in Vegas, and I think it's a real positive sign, to show that the A's really are pretty serious about making this thing happen. And he's the 3rd player, as you know, that they've signed to a long-term deal over the last year or so. So I think it sends a really positive message.
Do you know if this process was a long process? Because I wouldn't say of anybody, it's Nick Kurtz, who's the guy, or Shea Langoliers, who have established themselves as guys like, ooh, you got to get them now or else you're not going to get them. And now Shea Langoliers is farther into the process. But Soderstrom, was this a long process to get to the number that they got to?
I don't know, honestly, the answer to that. My sense is that the discussions may have started at the end of the season, but I'm really not sure. But you mentioned those two other guys or three other guys. Obviously, they would love to get Langeliers signed. I'm sure they would love to get Kurtz and Jacob Wilson. So you're talking about guys who they really believe will be the foundation for the ball club going forward.
Now, I heard from the source that Matt Chapman was offered a very similar type of contract early on. Do you feel like the A's are changing the culture for young guys to say, yes, I want to accept it? Because if they had kept their Matt Olson, if they were able to keep their Matt Chapmans, this team, look at what those guys have done, would be continuing to move in the right direction.
It's a fair point. It's an excellent point. And I think, yes, things have changed. And it's very simple. And if you drive down to the corner of Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard on the Las Vegas Strip, you can see the reason why. And that is the building of the new stadium there. And that's why they feel that the time is right to extend these long-term deals and that there'll be, added revenue coming in. So the focus is certainly different now than it was during that time you were talking about when they had guys like Chapman and Matt Olson, et cetera.
I want to go talk about Jeff McNeil a little bit, play with him for a while. Now he's over there with the A's. Talk about what you think he's going to bring to the table and where do you see this guy playing?
You would know more than me, right? I mean, you played on the infield with him. So
of course.
I think it's a big addition for them because they needed, things didn't work out with Zach Geloff last year. And that was it was a hugely disappointing year, I think, in some ways because of injuries. He just wasn't healthy last year. But they felt he was going to be their second baseman for years to come. He may still be because he has tremendous talent. But they struggled offensively at second base and also at third base. And so to get McNeil to play as second base ostensibly to provide that keystone combination along with Jacob Wilson, I think it's a real solid addition. And the other thing is, at a time when we hear so much about slugging and guys that strike out a lot and things like that up the middle, they have guys who make a ton of contact. So I imagine that they'll hit at the top of the order and maybe try to set the table for guys like Kurtz and Rooker and the rest of those guys.
Can you talk about this lineup? Because a lot of people don't know much about the A's lineup. And we went over it after they signed McNeil. This lineup is kind of scary. Where do you rank this lineup, top to bottom, 1 through 9, even with the hole at third still, in just the American League West?
It's a little bit of an old-fashioned American League lineup, and I've kind of drawn the comparison. Now, I'm not going to compare this group with that Cleveland group when they had Manny Ramirez and Tommy and Baerga and Alomar and all that, but to kind of use the John Hart, and I'm digressing, but to use the John Hart model to try to extend their young players to move into a new ballpark like the Cleveland Ball Club did before Jacobs Field opened. But I do think it's one of the best offenses in baseball on paper. Now we'll see. They still have a lot of young players, and there's going to be adjustments. And that Nick Kurtz is going to have to face. Last year was interesting because Kurtz had such an incredible year that you knew once the 6th inning started that the other team's best left-hander was going to get up in the bullpen. And that the manager, he knew exactly when Kurtz was coming up and that guy was going to come in to face him. So they're going to deal with things like that. But I really do think they have a chance to have one of the best offenses in the game.
Awesome. And I love to hear that. And I think you're definitely right. Now, my next question to you would be, what else? Is there anything else this Oakland A's team has to do to get them over the hump to where they need to be? Is there a guy that they're looking for? Have you heard anything?
I know they're looking and talking to free agents. There's no question. And to me, I think that would revolve around pitching. I think they could use an experienced veteran, solid pitcher. It doesn't have to be a number 1 or 2 necessarily, but I'd be surprised if they didn't go out and get at least one starting pitcher in free agency. And my expectation is that they would also try to fortify the bullpen as well.
All right. Let's look at that starting pitching. Is there any way that this team can start opening day where they're at? Or are we talking about needing to add 2 starting pitchers to a staff that, in my opinion, Luis Severino, I love the guy, was great on the road, struggled at home. If they have to add 2 guys, how are they going to take that to free agency and say, we want you to come here? And then they say, well, what happened to Luis Severino at home? And do I have to pitch at home, or can I only pitch on the road?
Malaise that hung over the team there for a while. You know, they were 22-20 after they beat the Dodgers in May in the first game of a series at Dodger Stadium. They lost 20 of their next 21. So that was really rough. But credit to them and to Mark Cosse that they bounced back from that and actually had a really good season in the second half. And I think Luis got over the hump from that standpoint as well. If you look at his numbers in the second half, I think he was a lot better. And I think the ball club as a whole made the adjustment to playing in Sacramento. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think their young pitching might be a little underrated. You look at Severino and Jeffrey Springs at the top of the rotation. They called up this kid, Luis Morales, who is just electric. He made 9 starts. He had a 3.14 ERA. He's penciled in the rotation. They have several other guys. They hope that their talent will come to fruition, including 2 lefties who I think might make their major league debuts this year, including one who hasn't even pitched an inning in the minors yet. Their first round pick last year, Jamie Arnold, out of Florida State, and then Gage Jump, who really jumped through their farm system last year, lefty from LSU. But I'll go back to what I said earlier. I think that they need to add at least one veteran. I think they need to add at least one veteran to that rotation.
With the Soderstrom signing, with the fact that the stadium is now, underway, construction in Vegas, and also with the fact that they got rid of or traded Mason Miller last year, somebody that had years of control left, are we starting to see the shape of this team and what it's going to look like when they move into Vegas? And what's the last piece this offseason that they need to say, okay, this is definitely what this team is going to look like for the next 5 years? Is there something that they can do this offseason to push them into the new stadium?
I think it's a great question, because if you look at 2028, it's not that far off now. And you could assume that Langoliers will still be their catcher then, and that Kurtz will be at first, and Wilson will be at short, and that Soderstrom and Denzel Clark, whom we haven't talked about, and Lawrence Butler will be in the outfield, and that Rooker will be their DH. Now, you never know. You guys know better than me. I mean, the 2 of you played for years in the big leagues, that things can change overnight. But, I mean, that's what they're hoping. They're hoping that that'll be the core group. You mentioned the Mason Miller deal. Leo DeVries, if he's as good as everybody says he is, then that's the guy you might be talking about. Now, that's not a move this offseason, but he's still a kid, but he's the consensus, top 3 prospect in the game. So if he turns out to be as good as the analysts say that he should be, then that might be the piece you're talking about.
For sure. He's an organization franchise changing type of prospect, but he is still just a prospect yet. Right. My question to you,
right.
You watch...
A prospect is a prospect until he shows something, right?
Correct. And then they're called suspects. So
exactly.
A lot is on that young man's shoulders. But you watch this team play in Sacramento. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody plays in Sacramento against another team in Sacramento. Nobody's playing, half their game in Sacramento and half their game in the games in Sacramento. Did you feel like, because of the home run, not just home runs, but just the amount of runs that were scored, did you feel like it was something that drained on the position players? Because if it was, because I saw that with guys in Colorado sometimes. It was like we scored 7 runs, and now we're in the 3rd inning and we're losing 8-7. Did you feel like it drained some on the position players? Because obviously the starting pitching is something we've hit on already, needing to address that. But could you see that in the position players? Like, all right, here we go. We got to score 9 to win tonight. Nope, 11 to win tonight.
Erik, I think we might have seen that early in the year when they had that long stretch when they lost 20 of 21. Because during that stretch, they gave up the lead late several times. And there's nothing more deflating than having the lead and then losing it and losing an 8-7 game or a 9-8 game. I didn't feel that was a factor in the second half. If you go back to the way they played really well in the second half. And you can still pitch there. I would not compare it to Coors Field. Some people have. The weather was actually better than we thought it was going to be. It wasn't quite as stifling in terms of the heat. It actually was a comfortable summer out there. So, yeah, I mean, I think you have to accept that it's not going to be the Coliseum. And that was one of you guys hit at the Coliseum and hitters hated it. So it's never going to be like that. But it's still a young group. So I don't think that was a factor.
Well, Ken, we appreciate the time. Great to have you on. Thanks for filling us in on what's going on there. And I would say hopefully they're able to throw more of these extensions to the young core to continue to keep it intact for several years. It seems to be the best play for them right now. And some guys are taking that on, right?
I would agree for sure, Scott. I would agree. Yeah. Now they got to take care of the broadcasters too, right? But
yeah. Where's the 5-year extension? Team friendly, but 5-year extension. Yeah.
I just signed a new deal for the next 2. So
there you go. All right.
I'm not looking. I'm kind of going, year to year anyway. So, but thank you guys. I appreciate it.
And Ken, that in broadcast terms, 2-year extension, that actually is that's probably 5 in baseball player terms. So we'll take it, right? Congratulations on that.
Just like dog years, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So. Yes. Well, Happy New Year, Ken. And
right,
congrats on the deal. We'll look forward to listening to you during the season.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right, where are we at with the big boys here? We have way too many big names on the free agent market, still waiting for the sides to emerge and say, yep, we're in, right? Is it teams not putting together their best offer yet? Is it players asking for too much? We're going to talk Kyle Tucker, Cody Bellinger, Alex Bregman, Bo Bichette, and then maybe a couple of the starters as well. Let's start with Tucker. And we'll refer to Mark Feinstein, MLB.com's article, just giving us an update on where things stand with some of the big boys. He said Toronto remains the favorite. Mets can't be counted out. If the Yankees are prepared to spend big, it's likely going to be for Bellinger. And we'll get to Bellinger next because John Heyman wrote that there's an official offer out this week, a formal proposal. But let us begin with Kyle Tucker. Do you think the Blue Jays end up with him based on what we've seen? And it seems like they have the highest bid out there right now, but they also love Bo Bichette. And I don't know if they're going to bring in both. Everyone wants to see that. If you buy what the Blue Jays were selling during the past, several months here, Todd Father, how the Blue Jays, they really took a step up. They won the division. They made it to the World Series, almost won the World Series, and they've been spending this offseason.
Yeah, I think that's the spot he should go to.
Then what about Bo?
Yeah, and that's where I like what I'm used to. I like somebody who's been there before. I like somebody that the fans love and enjoy. It's a great story with his father playing, him playing, and it's just he fits the mold of Toronto Blue Jays, in my opinion. He came back after he was injured and basically I thought he played pretty well. He's a good hitter and did some good things. He moved over to second base. Like there's a lot of upside still with Bo Bichette. I still think they should keep him. I think they should keep both, man. I don't understand. Take them both. Why can't you take them both? Spend that cash. You know what I mean? Teams are doing it. And, It's hard. It's hard because we don't know who else is in the mix. We don't know how much money is being involved. So, but if I'm the Blue Jays, I'm bringing back Bo, in my opinion, first.
Okay,
if
so
it's
he's
down
priority.
to both of them. I would think he'd be the priority.
I don't know that I agree with Todd. I'm not saying, based on money, you're going to pay less for Bo. If that's what it's about, I think the Blue Jays are recency bias. They're like, money? Screw that. I want another ring. I want to resemble what we did in 92, 93. And I think the Blue Jays want to bring that and have shown that that's the route they're going after Dylan Cease so early, giving him probably a little bit more than what they thought. So I don't think this is a money thing. And I think the value of Kyle Tucker added to this lineup outweighs the value of Bo Bichette. Because once the money's paid, once we're over the luxury tax, under the luxury tax, all you have is the product out on the field. Kyle Tucker will be a better offensive player. If both players stay healthy, it's apples to apples. He'll be a better offensive contributor to this lineup. And I also think it makes this lineup and this defensive configuration that the team could put out there a better defense and overall team because of the fact that if you bring Bo back, we talked about before, does he play second base? And if he does, that's fine. But now you're running Ernie Clement at third, more of an offensive position that if you would have Barger at third, now you're talking about more power at third and played well. Barger wouldn't have to go to right. Santander's locking down the DH. So there's a lot of pieces that move. And I think just if you're going player to player, not worrying about the money, Kyle Tucker is the route the Blue Jays should go because he doesn't need to be the superstar. And we have to remember, if we rewind back to 2024, I think there was possibly some hurt feelings from Bo Bichette. I think there was possibly some feelings like, okay, I'm not having a great year. Maybe he wasn't getting the extension talks that Vladdy was getting. Like, is this going to be my last year? Went out, had a banger year. I don't know that he's forgotten that, and I'm completely saying this only on my own. I think the Kyle Tucker spot for Kyle Tucker is in Toronto, and I think the Blue Jay fans would really like seeing him in right field.
Part of why I think he'll land in Toronto is that I think they have the best offer out, or the best idea of an offer, right? A lot of times it's not a real offer until you say, I'm interested. It's the most awkward situation. We can get into that another day. We've done it in the past, right? You don't want to formally say it. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I don't know who else is offering that level cash to Kyle Tucker. We don't even know what the money is. I just think that the Blue Jays are going to offer more if they seriously are interested in Kyle Tucker. Name another team that you think is going to play ball at the, I don't know, let's just say 300 million plus range, 350, whatever it is. It doesn't sound like it's the Yankees. For a while, I thought maybe it's the Yankees. I'm saying not this offseason, but heading into the 2025 season. Cubs acquire him. We know the Cubs aren't going to play ball like that, even though they should. We can talk all day about that. They were not going to make a real offer to Kyle Tucker. They just brought him in as a one-year rental. This kind of moves us to the next part of the conversation here. Todd Father, John Heyman reports formal proposal made to Cody Bellinger from the Yankees. And if anything, we've seen insiders talk about how Tucker's essentially a backup plan. That's a backup plan that's going to cost a lot more than Cody Bellinger. So to me, it means the Yankees aren't really interested in Tucker unless they are playing their hand really, really slyly. It sounds like Bellinger is their target. They liked him. You watched a lot of Yanks this year and covered Cody over there. It seemed like he was happy and that the fit's there, and they're just dancing a little bit over what the final number is going to look like.
I think 100% the last part you said. They're dancing. I think it's coming down to money. I think they both want a reunion. I think they both want to be with each other. It sounds funny. We're talking like,
yeah,
they both want to be with each other. Of course,
they're getting back together.
I think it's great that there's a proposal, and that's the first starting ground. Just like in any business, you start off here. Oh, you're crazy. I can't believe you're sending me that. Then hopefully they meet on an even ground. But I don't think Cody wants to go anywhere else. They say the Mets have been connected to, is why the Mets are always trying to find their way into things.
They are now. They didn't used to.
But yeah, for sure. but I think the two sides will ultimately come together and figure something out. But these things take time. And then they're like, oh, we'll get back to you. And then they look somewhere. Oh, then it's not, the grass isn't always so greener on the other side.
Yeah, to me, this one seems like it's happening, Kratz. I think the Yankees are going to give him the best offer, and he's going to take it. I just don't know when that's going to be. And I think it's probably going to be 5 years when someone like Cody might want 6 or 7. It could, you know what? I take that back. It could end up being in a 6 or 7 range, a la DJ LeMahieu. Much lower average annual value than he would get for the Yankees. They actually benefit from doing deals like this. It's not just having the player for a longer period of time. It actually just has more to do with them paying less of a fee, less of a tax on the luxury tax number that they're going to go past.
And Cody's been through it. Cody's been through all this song and dance of, wow, we just don't know what you're going to have. You have a great year with the Cubs. Hey, you sign this other short-term deal. I think I would say he's 30 years old. It's time for him to get a 6-year deal. I bet other teams will put 5 out there. I think he's worth 7, but I think he'll settle on 6 because of his versatility. He's going to age differently because of the fact that he is able to play center field right now. Can he play center field for them for 2 years? Yeah, but you got Trent Grisham back. So he can play left, and he's going to be fine there for maybe 3 or 4 years of the contract. Maybe they don't figure out first base. Maybe Ben Rice starts catching a little bit more. His versatility is way, way bigger of a value than I think anybody on the free agent market this year. And I think that's where he would like to get paid, but I also think that's where his value to the Yankees is.
That one seems easy. Let's go to Alex Bregman. In this article, it says Bregman's market has seemingly included as many as a half dozen teams connected to him throughout the offseason. Blue Jays, Diamondbacks, Cubs, Red Sox, Tigers. Said it seems like Detroit doesn't appear to be in the same range as they were last year, which was 6 years, 171.5 with some deferred money. Sources believe the Blue Jays and Diamondbacks may be the 2 most aggressive clubs in the hunt for Alex Bregman. What are we thinking here?
I like all those teams. I think he'd be happy with any of those teams.
He'd be happy with them, but
it comes down to catch.
Okay, so let's start with the last part of what I just said here. Blue Jays and Diamondbacks may be the 2 most aggressive in the hunt. Now, does that include the Blue Jays landing Tucker and or Bo? I mean, obviously it's not Bo and Bregman, but for example, let's go back to Tucker. If the Blue Jays get Tucker, they're really going to play for Bregman too? I doubt that, Kratz. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm buying a little bit of what the Diamondbacks are selling me. They do some deferral action long term. You don't see it? You don't think they'll do something like that?
I don't.
You don't think they
as
trade
much as I would love it
and they sign Alex Bregman?
I would love it. Kendrick has shown me that he can do some things that I didn't see happening. No, I don't see it. And it's not because of the Diamondbacks. I don't see it because I don't see how the Red Sox say, thanks for all you did for our young guys. We did hear just the other day what Roman Anthony said about Alex Bregman. We did hear what Marcelo Meyer said about Alex Bregman. No, it's not. I just don't think the Red Sox are going to allow it to happen. That's my opinion. I think the Red Sox have shifted from that I don't know, we're in NASCAR, we're in soccer, we're in hockey, Fenway Sports, all that stuff. No. I think the Red Sox know and see that they have a window that's probably, could be a 4 to 5 year window here. And I think they're willing to go as far as they need to go with Alex Bregman. And the more teams that Boris can say are in, the bigger number the Red Sox are going to have to pay.
You don't think that the Red Sox might play ball with Bo Bichette instead? The front office says, hey, it's a younger player. Good makeup there too. It's not the Bregman impact where you basically have one of the top coaches in the sport who's actively an all-star.
Listen, what these teams are all battling right now, and I think it's great. I think it's great because the agent's going, oh, Red Sox, what do you got for Bregman? Okay, cool. Did you have anything on Tucker? How about Bellinger? Like this, it's like a chess match. And I think the agent, is Boris agents with all these guys, or am I wrong?
Not all of them.
All right, but Boris has a couple of them, right?
Yeah, he's got Bregman, he's got Bellinger,
Cody.
Tucker's.
He's having a blast.
Excel.
This might be the most fun time he's ever had right now, because there's 4 to 6 teams on here. Then this other team comes in like, well, what's the offer? What do you got? What do you got? Because guess what? If you don't do it, what we want, this other team, like this is really, it's a fascinating time. You wish they would, get off the pot here and figure it out. Because
but who?
Yeah,
that's the question.
Somebody needs to do it. Somebody needs to be the big and be like, and that's why you said Heyman's report, formal proposal for Bellinger with the Yankees. That's a start. And then when that chip falls, then all of a sudden now the agent's like, oh shoot, we lost one team already. So like they're in a particular situation right now that I'm like, all right, well, let's see what happens with all these guys and all these teams that want everybody.
And fans get pissed because we're in January and we're talking about this.
Yeah.
This has more to do with team slow playing than agents, in my opinion. The agent sees the money offer, they're in, right? Because, you have fans that are going to blame both sides, and both sides can be blamed to an extent. Every case is different. But it is rare that a superstar player gets his best offer in November and now even in December. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To me, and Kratz, I try to simplify things, and for some people they appreciate it, and for others they try and get really nitpicky. But I'm just saying a team will plug the player into their model and spit out a number and tell their boss, their owner, this is what the player is worth on the market. They have a conversation with the player's representation about that number. The player's representation says, that's cool, thanks for the interest, we'll keep shopping. Eventually, an owner will get pushed and go over what that projected number is to actually win the player, because they all have the same projections. That is the very simple version of how this works, right? There's probably, 135 mil, I'm just throwing out random numbers, to player X. And at some point, an owner's going to be like, screw it, let's get him the extra year and get him to 155, and then the deal is done. That's just how this works, but it doesn't happen. It takes a while. I can tell you this for a fact. It happened last year with Bregman. The Red Sox did not have a number like that out there until late. Until what? That was spring training when he finally got brought in. They didn't have that offer out there for a long time. And they get the phone call, hey, the Tigers are here. Bregman likes you guys, but it's got to get to this number. I don't know, whatever. Friends of John Henry talk him into it. Boom, deal is done. That's a fact. That's how that deal is done. So when you say it's a slog and it's annoying, it's usually that the teams don't give their best offers out until later and later in the offseason.
They don't give it, or any offer. Not even just their best offer, any offer. Like, we're talking about guys getting calls. Pete Alonso was just on. Oh, yeah, the Orioles called early and they showed how much they were interested. They showed me their plan. He didn't say they made their offer and that was their offer and, it was out there. So my conspiracy theory self says, why are all the top guys, why are we not hearing what the offers are? Now this the report about John Heyman coming out that there's a formal offer to Cody Bellinger. Well, the reason is that we don't have the actual offers out there is because the teams aren't making the offers yet. They're doing the song and dance. Like send the note across. Do you want to play for us? Check yes or no. No, send the note across. We're going to give you $200 million. We think you are this player. If we want this offseason to go faster, we have to figure out a way to make sure the industry is not trying to squash some of these guys' salaries. The industry wants to squash the middle-class player because there's way more middle-class players. These guys are the most coveted guys on the free agent market, and I think Boris is doing a great job of making sure that the other guys are off the table, making sure Murakami is off the table before another third baseman, Alex Bregman, signs. Are they in the same boat? No, they're not the same player. But there's reasons that you wait, and there's reasons that teams wait, and they're two different reasons. To me, I think each one of these guys added to any of the, I'm trying to go through the list here, Any of these
Murakami's
guys
going to play first, by the way, not third. But I get what you're saying.
He was a third baseman, but he was out there on the market as a third baseman. He's not going to now play third. But any of these guys on here increase your opportunity to not just make the playoffs, but to win a World Series. And when teams don't make these offers, you as a fan have to question, how much does my team really want to push to take that final step to win a World Series?
Well, let's get to the pitching, too, from this article. I'll pair them together. Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez. Feinstein said the Orioles and Mets have been the two clubs most often connected to Valdez. We know if it's the Mets, he's not getting a 6-year deal or something. I mean, they're playing really in the way that the Dodgers want to play for the most part, with these high average annual value deals, but less length than what some other teams are going to offer. And then he said Ranger Suarez is also being linked to the Mets and the Orioles. My thing with the starting pitching market, Kratz, is that I do believe there's a disconnect between what most of the top end starters available left think that they're going to get and what teams are throwing out there. I actually think that one could be more of a stall on the player side. Someone like Dylan Cease throws that market off. I don't think these guys are getting the Dylan Cease contract. But you look and you're like, well, I put up just as good or better numbers than Dylan Cease. Okay, well, the industry loves him because he's got great swing and miss, and some people, including the Blue Jays, think untapped potential. Framber and Ranger have different weaknesses that hold them back a little bit more, in my mind, right? We've gone over both of them. I mean, for Ranger even, I mean, he pitches, but he's not putting together full seasons every year, and they're going to hold that against him.
But then you pump up his postseason numbers. I was just looking up his postseason numbers. It's ridiculous. But, where's that value? Who's going to pay it? The Blue Jays are trying to buy on that upside. To me, I think if Framber, and I'm looking at age difference, is Cease 30 or is he 29? I'd have to look it up.
30.
Because,
I'll tell you in 30 seconds. He's 30. He just turned 30 on the 28th.
The consistency. So they're right at that same age. Ranger's a little bit younger, so I don't think
Framber's
Ranger's
2 years older.
I'm sorry. Did I say younger?
No. Ranger, you're right. Ranger's the same age, but Framber is 2 years older. He's 32.
Yes. So to me, I think the same AAV is there because you don't have to question there's questions about Dylan Cease that the Blue Jays said, no, we're buying the upside of Dylan Cease. Framber Valdez is more of the surefire, he's going to make his 32 starts. So to me, it's a team that's going to say, and that's why I think the Mets are going to do it. I think that's where the Mets are going to say, we'll go 5 years. Why? Because he's going to make his starts. And everyone's going to say, well, what about the thing about, throwing at Salazar, his own catcher and all that? You cleaned up, supposedly you cleaned up your clubhouse, with some clubhouse issues, which I think have been overblown because I don't think Pete Alonso, Nimmo, or Edwin Diaz were the clubhouse issues. I just think they didn't want to pay those guys. To me, I think Framber solidifies rotation in the sense of starts. You need to make sure there's somebody that's going to go out there and give you 6+ innings for 32 starts. And I think that's where Framber's at. And I don't think Ranger is. I think Ranger's more of like an Orioles signing / I
think you're spot on.
It'll be too longer of a comment section.
I think Mets, Framber, Rangers. Ranger Suarez to the Orioles, Framber Valdez to the Mets.
And I just think the last point I'll make here to button this up, like as time goes on here, whatever number you wanted, it's not going to be the number. You got to kind of get on this now. Even though and then you got GMs and brass that are like, well, we're not ready yet. Well, then it always comes back to them, and they always figure out a way to get what they want. These bigger guys, like the time. If I'm a player right now and I'm one of these guys, hey man, put an offer out now. Like let's just try something, see what they say. Hopefully, we get some banter back and forth.
Last one for me. I just want to sneak in Okamoto too, and we can spend more time on him Monday because he'll be signed by then. His deadline is Monday to sign. And I think he's going to be a good ball player. He doesn't have the contact issues at all that Murakami has. He should be a much better defender, too, at first base. He can play some third, it appears, but I think he'll sign as a first baseman. Really good numbers and contact on base, a little bit of pop, kind of gives you that whole thing. Maybe there's some questions about contact. About pop and how much it'll play in the big leagues. He's 29 years old. He should be right in the thick of some prime years for a few seasons. And he's got to essentially sign by Sunday, January 4th. The 5th's the deadline, but you got to pass a physical, and they get that stuff done. So that's why you usually see the Japanese guys go right up until about 24 hours before so that he can have the time, sign on the 4th at 5 p.m. You get to wherever you got to go, get your physical done that morning, and boom, you sign and you do the intro press conference. But Okamoto, it sounds like, let's see, I'm trying to remember who put this out there. Francis Romero said, Angels, Padres, Pirates, and on Okamoto.
Love this guy. First and third baseman, kind of what my career was a little bit.
Less pop than you.
Yeah, well, that's a shame.
I think he might have more contact than Todd Father, but he's got less pop.
No, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But imagine, I was just thinking when you were saying this, they got till January 4th. Like, imagine all free agents, they put them in a category and hey, you got till January 4th to sign Todd Frazier. I think that would be fantastic.
Do you? That's
think
what the league wants, really? Because they're going to call everybody at one time with 1 minute to spare.
I wasn't done, though. Okay. I wasn't done. But the only bad part about that whole thing is, what happens if nobody signs you? Then what comes of it? You know what I mean?
Eventually, you have to be able to sign again at some point.
Yeah.
So then does everyone wait?
But that's why my point is mute.
Yes.
But I was just saying, theoretically, what happens if that was the case? It would be pretty. And put your thumb up, jackass. I wasn't trying to be cute or anything. There you go.
His thumbs up because our guest is ready. So let's get to our guest because he signed his contract.
Let's
do it. Pete Fairbanks is here. Miami Marlins high leverage reliever, closer, joining us right now. Signed a big deal with Miami. Pete, congratulations on the deal, and tell us how it all went down, man, and how excited you are to stay in the Sunshine State.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I told I was talking to the radio guys the other day, and I let it be known that I could never play for a team that doesn't have a fish mascot in some capacity. So I figured that was like my number one. I got to make it happen. I got two choices, and one of them didn't want me anymore. So, no, look, we had a lot of conversations with Bendix throughout it, and the biggest plus, I think that they're going to be good, and really for us being able to be close. My we're expecting our third kid, so taking some of the burden off of everything there by being a drive away versus a long flight. The more we talked about it was a pretty big positive, and then being familiar with Bendix, and then getting a firsthand look at some of the good young talent they have. I think it hopefully will be a good fit for us.
Two things before my question. Congratulations. And I didn't know that a stingray was a fish. I didn't know
that. It's a cartilaginous fish, Erik. It's a cartilaginous fish.
I had no idea. Yeah. But thank you for that. I knew it wasn't a mammal, but I'm like, what is it? Is it a crustacean? Is it Anyway, take us through the pitch. Take us through the pitch to go to the Marlins. Everyone's going to say, oh, who cares? We got the money As a baseball player, you don't ever look at your paycheck when you're out on the mound. What's the pitch that made you say, yes, I'm going to be a Marlin?
I really liked Mostas and their director of pitching. I like both of them. And Aaron, my agent, we went in with no kind of expectations for, pitching departments, what teams had to offer, et cetera. Kind of went in, blank slate. Really impressed us between those two and the conversations we had with them. I really liked McCullough and everybody. And then, I'm decent enough friends with Calvin Fauché, who's one of the relievers. I was able to talk to him a little bit about it. And yeah, they really brought more to the table than I had anything, in going in with nothing. They definitely kind of set a pretty good, standard for me. And I think that they are moving in the right direction, right? You kind of saw the start of it last year, and hopefully I can, help, lock down the back end of things and make a little more noise and get on the right side of 500 and make a little bit of a push.
Now, when you became that free agent, I know you picked the Marlins, but was there any other teams that were on your tail that you were looking like, oh man, I could go one way or another here?
Yeah, there was more than a handful that we had, pretty decent conversations with. And then, kind of by the end, the more that my wife and I talked about it, the more and more likely, it seemed like that Miami was going to be the right fit for us, and we were able to, I think, both get what we wanted out of it.
Does being a closer matter to you? Does being the guy that is the high leverage inning guy, does that matter when you're going through free agency for your first time?
I mean, I think it matters in some regard, right? Like, I think that, when you do it for, however many years, you definitely, you hold on to a little bit of that. But I think, sometimes the most important outs aren't in the ninth inning, right? They could be earlier, right? Your 24, or 25, 26, 27, those are still, in my estimation, the hardest outs to get, but they might not be the most important ones. So, wherever it is to get those outs, I'm excited to be up to that challenge again after, doing a little bit of it for quite a few years with Tampa.
Yeah, you did a little bit of it, that's for sure, in some big spots, and you were pretty successful. Here's my question. I'm going to put you in a scenario, okay? Game 1, you guys are winning 4-3, and you get out on the mound, you do your stare where you're not blinking at all, and you look into the dugout, or you're listening. I mean, you look into the catcher's mitt, he's looking for his sign, and you're listening, and your catcher's going like this, looking over, and then he hits the button. And you're like, what? Wait a minute. Nobody's on. He looks over again for the next pitch. Oh, wait a minute. Are you okay with the guys from the bench calling the pitches for you? And did that come up when you had this conversation with the pitching guy, with Clayton McCullough, the manager?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely talked about it, right? It's one of the things that was addressed. And for me, catcher versus dugout, they're almost kind of the same in my eyes. It's not me that's making the initial decision. So where it comes from isn't as big a thing, right? Because I know they get theirs as long as I get it in enough time to be able to shake to say something that, say, I disagree with, say it's fastball, I want slider, whatever. As long as I have enough time to get to that, still be able to do my little rock back and forth antics, come set and throw, then that's no issue to me.
Pete, I'm gonna do this in like really basic, just fan looking at how players make a lot of money terms. It was a unique situation. Rays didn't pick up your option, like you mentioned earlier. Hey, Rays didn't want me. You hit the free agent market. You did make more money. So do you look at that part of it at least? I know you get to join a team that does want you and say, okay, if I got traded, let's say to the same team, I would have made less money. I know it sounds like kind of simple, and I know some guys don't love talking about the financial components, but you did actually benefit from the Rays saying, you know what, we don't want you back, and we're not going to kind of take you on and work on the trade wins for the next month or so.
Yeah, I'd say it worked out. I think Aaron and I had an idea that it could be headed towards the option decline, and be able to kind of go out there and figure out a spot that would be best. Had it been a trade or whatever, I would have been perfectly fine with however it played out. But I'm excited to be staying in the state of Florida and getting to traverse across Alligator Alley so I can go back and see my family and hopefully get some wins for the fish down there.
There's a stopping point partway through Alligator Alley now. So in case you get sleepy or you're afraid or you want to see alligators, there's like a lookout tower that you can stop at if you need to.
Perfect. That would be my number one spot to want to view an alligator, was halfway through my drive back home.
If people haven't done the Alligator Alley drive, my suggestion is don't. But to see a newborn, to see your family, that's a big change. You had said in your remind me if I'm wrong, maybe I heard it wrong, but in your radio interview, I think it was radio interview, you said your relationship or the way you talked to Peter Fairbanks, did you have a relationship before from when he was with the Rays?
I always called him my fellow Pete.
Okay.
So
where's that?
you always see those guys around, right? You're, and I'm a talkative guy for the most part, so I try and build whatever relationships you can, whether it's front office guys, your teammates, staff members, etc. They're all people that matter in an organization, and you ought to do your best to form those relationships. So I definitely say the familiarity definitely makes things easier, right? When you're looking for a landing spot, knowing what you're going to get from the people in charge definitely can make a transition that much easier in my eyes.
How does it feel, you're a free agent this year, you finally, got your deal or whatever. How does it feel now next year you're going to be a free agent too? Does that change your mindset on anything, or is it the same kind of focus you have, same outcome, same kind of goals that you have going on into this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's all the same, right? We're still trying to not give up any runs and win baseball games. And now, we're doing it with a different color scheme on, but we're going to approach it just like we did last year and go out and lock some games down, and then hopefully repeat the whole process again next December.
So, Pete, you spent 7 seasons, including your first season with, I know, a little Texas and then Tampa Bay, 7 seasons with the Rays. Brandon Lau spent 8 seasons with the Rays. Both are now gone over the last few weeks. That's a really, really long tenured Ray. What is the key to longevity with the Rays? Like, for a player on the Rays right now who's like, you know what? I just got a sick house on the beach. I love it. How do I stay here for a team that basically turns their whole roster over every 3 years, aside from 1 or 2 guys?
Yeah, that's I'm not sure how I figured out. Of all the people that I expected to stay there for a long time, I didn't expect myself to be on that list, just given the bullpen arms. We typically are the ones that are have the most turnovers there. So yeah, I don't know. Find some success and hope for the best is typically what we were doing.
I have the answer. You sign an extension if they offer you one and get a no trade clause in there, but they don't really do that. So otherwise, I don't know. But I mean, actually, that does make sense, right? Because Bilal did do that. I forgot. He did actually sign an extension really early on in his career and then kept getting the club options picked up. So that would be the answer, right?
Yep.
Hey, get one of those early extension offers.
Be cost controlled.
Be cost controlled.
Be cost controlled. Yes.
That is the way. Exactly. I like it. All right, go ahead, Kratz.
So you're leaving the American League East. I kind of have a 2-part question here, but it kind of coincides. Which stadium are you going to miss the most? And which one are you going to miss the least?
I would say I'm going to miss Boston both the most and the least.
Oh, go ahead. Explain.
Because you get outs that aren't outs there, but it's also like a great ballpark and atmosphere.
Nothing to do with the fact that when you.
Oh, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, nothing to do with the fact that when you put your arm up, that a fan can actually touch your arm when you're warming up. It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah, not gonna miss the bullpen or hitting my head in the dugout whenever I would walk down the steps and I'd go to the bench, and it's so short that without fail I was either fired up in a positive or negative way, and I hit my head on that so many times. But yeah, I mean, it's a great atmosphere, fun place to play. The bullpen sucks. So, it's positives and negatives.
That's fair. So I'm taking you to your new stadium. What do you think about the home run statue that's now outside? Should they move it back inside?
I'm always down for a home run gimmick. However, I think the statue serves a great purpose on display outside where I don't have to see it as much.
What if it was a strikeout statue and not the
then
home run
let's bring it
statue?
right back inside. Right back inside. If it goes up every time somebody punches a ticket, let's get that back in there as soon as possible.
Anything for K-Dogs. I like it.
That's right.
Hey, last one for me. Pete, have you spoken to anybody on this team? Did anyone reach out, whether it's from a coaching or player perspective? And if so, can you give us any unique insight that you learned so far? We know it's a very young team, and you have the Peter Bendix connection, who was in the front office with the Rays and now is trying to make his Rays version of the Marlins here.
Yeah, had some people reach out. I talked to Calvin Vaucher. I actually talked to him earlier today about living situations, and he was mad that I didn't give him any credit in helping me make my decision on my last media session. So I'd just like to reiterate to Calvin that I still give him no credit with decisions that I've made.
He thinks he was influencing what? Like where you
That's
where
what
you
he's
live, or
claiming that he had some sway on me in this whole process. And I'd like to tell Calvin that that's not the case, but I'm very excited to see him.
I love that people don't know who Calvin Vaucher is, but that you call him Calvin, that makes me laugh.
Yes, his name is Calvin, and a lot of people don't call him Calvin.
Is his real name Calvin, and we're going Colin?
No. Calvin Vaucher is a different person than Colin Poche.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
That's crap.
Yeah, these are two separate, autonomous individuals. Yes.
Good job, Kratz. Did you have one more or no?
No. I'm good.
You're good?
I'm all peated out.
Well, now that we've made Calvin feel even worse, Pete, don't show him this. Happy New Year, dude. Congrats on the deal. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate the time, dude. And we'll talk to you in spring training.
Chris, guys, appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Let's do this. Futures for AL Rookie of the Year. BetMGM odds. Trey is Savage plus 200. Wow, 2-1 odds for Trey. And then Munetaka Murakami's at plus 350. Tatsuya Imai plus 350. Or you can pick rookies off the board, but we're just showing you the top three for now. Man, that's too high for your Savage. I mean, he's great, obviously, but he pitched his ass off deep into October. They're going to manage those innings.
Yeah, I think that's way too high. I think he's going to do good, but I don't know about AL Rookie. I hope he does. I like him. I like him a lot. I would love to see like the top 10, 20 of them. I haven't checked, but I don't see any of these three winning the Rookie of the Year right now. But I'm saying that without looking at the whole list. I feel like, these guys are going to be good, but we'll see. It's going to take some time for Murakami and Imai to get used to, playing in the United States. Your Savage had a great playoff career, but we want to see him through a whole year. People are like, oh man, you're just being bitter. No, I'm not. I'm just from futures and seeing how guys are. You got to see a whole 162 out of a lot of these guys. So 200, I thought it'd be like 700-800 if you want the truth, but maybe they know something we don't know.
Well, they're also saying that they don't love the rookie class. If you have someone at 2-1 already,
we'll see.
I mean,
don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's based on the money too. I think it's just tough to say a guy that young is going to have a workload large enough to win the Rookie of the Year. And I think his unique. The interesting part about it for me, the reason I wouldn't, is because of his uniqueness in pitching. Are people going to be able to figure him out the second time through? He might make an all-star team, but then are they going to be able to figure him out? So that's where I don't know, because it's such a unique release point. To me, I'm looking more at the position player. I'm going down the list. Does Kevin McGonigal, does he make the team because the Tigers don't sign anybody? If he does, I think this is a guy that smashes fastballs. I think a guy that made his debut in the playoffs last year, Chase DeLauder. Does Chase DeLauder get 550 at-bats? When you talk about position players, obviously it's all about health, but it's more about how the organization's going to deploy them when they're in the big leagues. And you just accumulate a lot of at-bats, and you might hit 280. You might run into 20 homers, and that can win you. That can win you Rookie of the Year. You have like a Drake Baldwin type of year.
I actually think there's value with the next two here. I mean, Murakami is either going to – no? You think it'll be an adjustment period?
No.
I think I think there's a chance he could still hit a ton of bombs, and he's going to play it, or he's going to get at bats every day. So that helps. And then for me, I'm on the high side with Imai. I think that the industry is wrong on this one, and that he's going to be a number, say, 2 starter. And if that's the case, he's super underpaid and undervalued this offseason. And if he stays on the field, which, I mean, I don't think his injury history is deeper than almost any other pitcher, I think he's going to win it. I think he's going to be great. And you're looking at him for the first time. Remember? I mean, you're seeing a guy who's pretty unique. He has that he's got the savage slider, right? That teams do love, and that I don't think the models really know how to price out yet, because there's only a few guys that have it. So I think for me, that's where I'd be spending my money. And I actually like it. Sometimes we shy away from these Kratz. I like that. I like the play for Imai in this case at plus 350. I think he could get off to a hot start. And yeah, even if he's part of a 6-man rotation, that'll help him. Most of the guys that come over from Japan are in a 6-man rotation. And if not, they need one at least to start their career.
That's fair. And he doesn't need to amass 200 innings like I think he would need to for like a Cy Young, or 180 innings. So, right. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. For me, with Murakami, if he hits 30 homers, can the voters shy away from that number without giving him the Rookie of the Year? If he pops 30 homers, which home run-wise, that might be his floor. You're talking about a possible 40 home run type of power. Yes, I get it. He might hit 190, but if he hits 220 with 30 pumps, I mean, isn't he locked in? Doesn't he have to be Rookie of the Year?
No. So here, I'll just give you the comp. Ready? Who are you voting for Rookie of the Year if Murakami hits 30 home runs, but he's got a 275 on base and he's playing either bad first or mostly DH, versus Imai with a 2.80 ERA making 28 starts?
Yeah,
I don't think that's close.
I would go with a pitcher Imai.
Yeah.
2.8 is legit. I mean, 2.8,
yeah, but that's doable for him.
ERA.
Okay, 3 ERA versus what you're saying. I'm just saying, if Murakami strikes out like crazy, doesn't get on base well, and he's not probably going to be known for his defense, then I think you're looking more at, is he going to hit 40 plus, and then it's going to be a tougher sell to put someone else there. I think 30 still doesn't do it, unless the numbers are back to support him with on base, and I don't know, I guess maybe some defense at first that's better than expected.
Yeah. I mean, his on base percentage will be decent. It's just going to be where that average ends up, because he doesn't make contact with a lot of stuff. He just doesn't swing it much outside of the zone. So 30 homers. How many rookies have hit 30 homers and not been the top 2, top 3 Rookie of the Year voters? That's a lot of homers to jump in the first year and do. Like, say a Suzuki's home runs didn't really start coming till a few years into his time in the big leagues.
That's true. I'm trying to look up the really tough question that Kratz asked. I don't think we'll be able to pull it up.
No, it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, but if someone else wants to do that homework and DM us on Instagram, I'll read it tomorrow. Anyway, a new year means new chances to shine over at the BetMGM app or on BetMGM.com. An odds boost token can be part of the mix for you. You can use it on any college hoops bet. Todd Father likes that. If your play comes through, that pick, you'll kick off the new year with a bigger payout. A little college hoops, which I almost call pro college hoops at this point, but it's good. It's good entertainment. Not for our team this year, but it's good entertainment. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Our team is Rutgers, by the way, but the team that we're excited about in the next few weeks is actually the Cincinnati Reds, because we're going to visit with a lot of the current team. Todd Father, Danny Graves, and myself will be over at Reds Fest playing in that poker tournament on Saturday, January 17th, 3 o'clock Eastern. If there are tickets left, they're almost sold out. And it's not one of those situations where you're like, tickets are selling fast. Like, no, this thing sells out, the poker tournament. So it might already be sold out, but if you want to hit the QR code on the screen, you can see if there's any tickets left. And then a panel discussion at the BetMGM Sportsbook the next day. We'll do a little brunch, a little cocktail if you can have one. And I don't know, maybe a burger with with a little egg over easy or something on top
God.
for brunch.
Can't wait. I haven't eaten in how many hours?
Oh, oops. Sorry.
Yeah,
I forgot. Forgot it's been a minute. Don't wait until the 18th, though. Don't go that long on me. That's 16 days away. But anyway, we'll be there. So if you want to swing by and say hello, please do. All right, let's hit Hot Corner. There were a million things that we didn't get to from the past week and change that we're going to do a speed round on. Here we go. Hot Corner signings that happened since we've been gone from a live show. Tyler Mahle, San Francisco Giants, $10 million in guaranteed cash over 1 year coming up. He was great.
That'll be about $3.5 million guaranteed.
What do you mean?
California.
Oh, that's good. Hey, he was really good in about half a season's worth of starts. Mahle hasn't been able to stay on the field consistently. He had TJ too at one point, but he had 16 starts this past season, a 2.18 ERA and 86 2/3 innings. Low strikeout numbers though, 66 punchies and 86 2/3.
Imagine getting signed there, my last year they signed me for $3 million. I'm like, can I get 2.999 deferred? So I don't have to pay.
That's what guys do nowadays. Or at least some of them do. Yeah. They say, hey, can I get it deferred back to when I'm in Florida or Texas, whatever it is. So this paired with, I don't think we really got to this at one point when it happened because it was maybe a few days before our final show of 2025. Adrian Hauser also signed with the Giants. The temperament from Giants fans on social media is not good right now, Kratz. They're pissed. They think that these are little spots and dots moves. 2 years, $22 million for Hauser. 1 year, $10 million for Tyler Mahle. That's not little money. Like Hauser and Mahle are getting $22 million. You know, that's like what Imai is getting this coming season for Houston. So would you rather have Imai or Hauser and Mahle? I'll take Imai.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone will take Imai, but I think they already have their Imai. If they think Imai is going to be, what they're paying him to be, the Astros, and another organization believes that, they already have Logan Webb. They already have Robbie Ray. Those are the guys that have to carry the torch for this team. And I think that is a place where I think the Giants can get a lot of value. We need guys that throw strikes, guys that are in the zone and let people make contact because it's a large park. You're not going to get hurt by that long fly ball. You're not going to get hurt by the fact that a ball on the ground is going to get through because their defense, they built their team for defense. I know they got Willie Adames, but he came in, more for the offense. They got defense up in center, behind the dish, one of the best, Matt Chapman. So I don't hate this for the Giants because of how Oracle Park plays and because of how they've built their team. I think they'll find more value in these signings than maybe some other teams would have.
Zach Eflin, known fact. Well, it is known because that was it. My 1,000th hit was off Zach Eflin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, he's just transitioning us right into the next starter signing then.
Excuse me.
Shall we?
I thought we were talking about him already.
No, you're confusing your Hausers with your Eflin.
I am. That's what I'm losing because you brought up food. That's sorry.
You're getting a little pale on me.
My bad.
You're getting a little pale on me. I need Kratz here to give him a little smack. But okay, Kratz,
You're doing
I'm
great,
with
Todd.
I'm not criticizing the Giants moves as much as fans expecting more of a heavy hitter signing. But they're signing around the margins, and that's actually what was written about them at the start of the offseason. Don't expect the Giants to lay the hammer down. They're going to do more of these depth deals. So okay,
excuse me.
But now let's get to Mr. 1000, Zach Eflin.
Dude, that's terrible. Huh?
A 1 year deal with the Baltimore Orioles, and the Orioles continue to strike. They're pissed. A year ago, Todd Father said, "You're not making the playoffs, guys. We didn't like your offseason, and neither did anybody on this show."
They are who we thought they were.
Exactly. This time around,
until
1 year,
now.
$10 million, $4 million with bonuses tied to start, so he could make himself up to $14 million to be part of an Orioles rotation that needed a facelift, and they're getting it right now. Suddenly, you've got Shane Baz, Zach Eflin, Trevor Rogers was brilliant for the Orioles. Hopefully he can continue that for them. What's-his-face just came back towards the end of the year. as I'm pulling up. Bradish just came back towards the end of the year. Now
Tyler
we're
Wells.
talking, or are we? Guys, are we talking? Now are we feeling a lot better about the rotation heading into this season?
Yeah, I feel good about it for sure. They're making these moves to win, and I think this is a good one here. He's still a really good pitcher. He knows how to throw well. I didn't know he was 31. I thought he was older than that.
Is he only 31, Zach Eflin?
Or 32, maybe? Excuse me.
Yeah, he's 31. He'll be 32, age 32 season coming up.
I mean, still doing it. Stay healthy. Get out there. Yeah, show him what you really are, bro. You're a really good pitcher. He's got a nasty breaking pitch. His fastball's got some movement to it, and he's a tall stature. Another good pickup for Baltimore. Another check mark. I love it.
But for me, and I know where Kratz is probably going, one more, por favor. One more. It could be like our prior segment, a Ranger Suarez. It could be a Framber Valdez. It could be one of the mid-tier guys. There's actually a number of mid-tier guys still available on the market. Of course, if you're an Orioles fan, you want one of the big boys that's left. But there are quite a few starters in that mid-tier range. Nick Martinez, Lucas Giolito, Chris Bassett, Zach Littell. Did Zach Littell sign yet?
I'm not 100% on that.
Anyway, there's quite a few left that I think would make Orioles fans feel a little bit better from the depth department. Because if you're one of those fans that said, hey, last year was a mess because we had injuries, okay, well then that's something that occurs all the time in the pitching department, so you better stack up this year. And I think that's part of what they're doing here, Kratz. If they can get one more starter, I think they're in the playoff mix.
Or I think this is really setting up for them to get Ranger Suarez. I guess I'm really pushing that forward, but what have we always said about Ranger Suarez? 130, 140 innings. He's going to spend a little bit of time on the IL, and then he's going to ball out in the playoffs. That's what he's done in his career, and that's what you're paying for in free agency. So what the Orioles think that's worth, you know what it's worth? Let's get some other guys around him. Let's get some other guys to, if he can only make 25 of his starts, how can we subsidize those other 7 starts? The issue if you don't get a Ranger Suarez, and you do, and I love a Nick Martinez. I would like that signing too, because I think he goes out there and gives you that Swiss Army knife kind of pitcher. The issue is you're leaning on a guy like Bradish to say, you have to make your 32 starts. You have to be the guy you were before you got hurt. That's tough, and I think that can put too much pressure on a guy to fight through the issues that some pitchers have coming back from Tommy John surgery. I know he came back at the end of the year, and he pitched really, really well. I just would like a little softer landing with a guy in the rotation like a Ranger Suarez. I think it vaults the Orioles to a new level if you have a Ranger Suarez, Trevor Rogers, and a Kyle Bradish. Because of then those other pieces, Shane Baz, you have Eflin, and then you're able to mix in Tyler Rose. You're able to mix in just other guys, and you have more of like a 7-man rotation that looks really clear going into the playoffs because one of those top 3 guys falter. Now one of those other 3 guys steps up and is that guy coming into playoff time. And Zach Eflin, he doesn't need, in my opinion, he doesn't need to apologize for what he did with the Orioles. If you look back when he got traded over, the 9 starts he made in 24, he was lights out. So there's clearly a track record of them liking him and him liking Baltimore. And to me, I think they're going to get closer to the 2024 guy they traded for than what happened in 25.
And Littell, by the way, is still a free agent for all of you Littell super fans out there. But yeah, one more for Baltimore, but giving them a ton of credit. They've been maybe the most aggressive team so far this offseason. They had a lot of bullpen to remake, and they've been working on that as well, which moves us right to a team that is solely focused on remaking their bullpen since most of their guys from this past season were free agents. The Chicago Cubs snuck in with a Hunter Harvey contract. Harvey's always a big stuff guy. He just can't stay consistently on the field. Cubs signed him up to a 1-year deal. They've done a lot with their bullpen. 1 year, $6 million, by the way, for Hunter Harvey. But I say all that with the caveat that the Cubs are playing in the kiddie pool for the most part this year, to use an AJ Pierzynski term. They have not only not landed a big boy, but it doesn't seem like they're in on any of the big boys.
Yeah.
So, like, we have a resident Cubs super fan in the chat, Mike G, who's just been on fire today, and he said, one of his comments, I copied it down so I could read it to you for this segment. He said, Cubs now, quote, in on Bichette, Cubs in on Bregman, Cubs in on Okamoto, Cubs in on Suarez, Cubs in on trade market for starters, Cubs in on Egg McMuffin before seeing the shocking price. His point is they are sticking so hardcore to their model, like, hey, this is what we have you valued at. If you want this number, we'll give it to you. Otherwise, and that's just not how you win free agents over. So, for example, if they really wanted Imai, I mean, they easily could have gone the distance to bring him in, right? If it took $3 or $75 million or whatever it is. But in the meantime, I'll give them credit for their reliever signings and a big fat incomplete on their report card for the 2026 campaign. I mean, Game 5 against the Brewers, it was a bullpen game starter. Their season on the line. Come on, guys.
Figure it out.
Yeah. Bullpen, though. I like Palencia. He was great for them, emerged last year. Phil Maton was signed this offseason. Hunter Harvey, Caleb Thielbar, Holby Milner. Like, cool. We think Porter Hodge has big potential. I'm fine. We're good there, right, Kratz? But starting rotation-wise, do we feel like the group they have right now is going to get them to October and then be pitching in big games in October? I mean, they'll probably lose one or two via injury. And there's not a lot of depth there. Steele will come back, hopefully, late this season. Got Boyd. Hopefully, Cade Horton puts together a really strong sophomore campaign. Injuries got him towards the end of last year. See what Imanaga looks like. Is it the first or second year Imanaga? Tyon's more of a back-end guy. Colin Ray I'd prefer as more of a swingman spot start kind of situation at this point. But your thoughts?
I mean, you posed two questions there. And the one was, does this starting rotation get them to October? Yes. Yeah, I think it does. I think it showed that it does. They have their position player core intact. Oh, wait, besides Kyle Tucker. They still need that guy. I think they made the right decision last year in Matt Shaw. Matt Shaw's value to the team was almost equal to the same WAR as what Alex Bregman brought to the Red Sox. So, yeah, they made the right decision. But they can't go into this end of this offseason, the beginning of the season, saying, well, you know what, we made that right decision, and now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to kind of stay status quo, because they didn't stay status quo last year, and they got a Kyle Tucker. Who is the Cubs' Kyle Tucker? Whether you can say, he faded down the stretch, he wasn't worth it. As a Cubs fan, that's fine. You watched him every day. I'll let you be to your own opinions. But the dude produced for a majority of the season, and you need to replace that. You need to replace that if it's not in the starting pitching. If you're not going to sit there and say, well, we'll see a bounce back from Tyone and Steele will be our number one starter, even though he's coming back from Tommy John surgery when we make it to the playoffs. You still need somebody in the position player core to say, I'm the man. And right now I don't see that with the Cubs lineup.
I don't see that with the rotation. And yeah, I'm not scared there. So I think Cubs fans are pretty pissed right now. One more in the division. The Reds added J.J. Bleday and Dane Myers. Okay. The real spark is, I mean, no offense to the guys, but they haven't, I don't think they're going to be, they shouldn't be starting outfielders. And if they want to, have them platooning or whatever right now, I mean, I think the real goal for the Reds is they've been chatting with the White Sox for like a year and a half now about Luis Robert. And either the Reds or the Mets are going to get him at some point. Is the trade going to happen this offseason? If it's Cincinnati, they're probably going to make the White Sox eat more of the contract. So we'll see what happens. But if you're a Reds fan, you're probably like, hey, remember how promising we were this past season and then we made the playoffs?
Yeah.
And then you guys made a bid for Kyle Schwarber. Are you going to do anything else? Because you didn't get Schwarber.
Nope.
So if I'm a Reds fan, I'd be like, let's go.
We'll talk
I
to
love
the
the Reds.
We'll tell them at Reds Fest, hey, I like the change of scenery for Luis Robert. Someone's going to do it and give that a shot.
Exactly.
Yep. But yeah, those were just little moves that we didn't get to. I think we got to everything that we missed over the past week and a half. Let's slap. First Kratz of 2026.
Definitely Blue Jays.
Shocker. Shocker. I go all of Christmas and I got every gift that I want, but Cubs fans did not get the gifts that they want. They need somebody. It's so ironic that we just talked about this. Cubs fans deserve, because of how they come out, they deserve to have that replacement for Kyle Tucker.
Well said.
Very well said. There you go. And on our way out, cheers to Andrew Heaney for retiring. Snuck that one in.
Cheers.
Nice career for Andrew. And big cheers to the FT team. Behind the scenes first. Also, everyone else that's been a part of the show throughout the year. We've got our big ass credits to send you out for our first show of 2026. Back every single weekday like we do.